You will not step 1 foot into that church.
Madam, please. Kingsley is waiting for me.
Kingsley is not your concern. You will obey me.
But madam, I must go.
Kingsley is waiting for a wife who belongs in this family. Not a gutter girl who cleaned my toilet 6 months ago. By the time the sun sets today, you will disappear from my son's life, and no one will ever find you.
Before she was the gutter girl, Amara was just a girl in Umuahia with a leaking roof and a father who counted things for a living. Chibuike Chukwu had been an accountant, not a rich one, but a respected one, the kind of man small traders trusted with their life savings, because he never once rounded a number in his own favor. He lost his job when the bank he worked for collapsed in a scandal that wasn't his doing, and he lost his health not long after, worn down by years of worry he never let his daughter see. Amara was 11 when the roof first let rain fall directly onto her school books. She remembers moving her exercise books to the corner of the room, not the leak itself. She remembers her father sitting beside her some nights with an old calculator, teaching her not just arithmetic, but a way of seeing. "Numbers don't lie, my daughter," he told her once, turning the calculator so she could check his work herself. "Only people lie. A number will always tell you exactly what happened, if you are patient enough to ask it properly." She was 14 when he died. Her aunt in Aba took her in a market trader with little money but firm principles and raised her the rest of the way, to speak with respect even to people who did not deserve it, to work hard even when no one was watching, and to never, ever let anyone see her flinch. By 19, Amara had finished a diploma in accounting she paid for herself, cleaning offices at night to afford the fees. There were no jobs waiting for a girl with no connections, and no money for bribes at bigger firms. So when a Lagos employment agency offered her a position as a domestic staff member in a wealthy household head maid, they called it, better paid than the junior girl, she took it. She told herself it was temporary. She told herself many things were temporary. She kept one small habit from her father, even in a house that had nothing to do with numbers. She wrote everything down, every payment she made on the family's behalf, every receipt, every figure in a private notebook, in her own neat hand, the way her father taught her, not for anyone else. Just because a mind trained to see numbers cannot stop seeing them. She had no idea that habit would one day be the only witness willing to speak the truth. The Bello mansion sat behind high gates in Ikoyi, the kind of house where even the flowers looked expensive. Beatrice Bello ran the household the way she ran Bello Group's property empire, with total control and zero patience for anyone who slowed her down. Her son, Kingsley, was nothing like her. He had grown up watching money change people around him, and he had decided early that he would rather be decent than important. He ran the logistics arm of his mother's company quietly and competently, and he treated the staff in his mother's house like human beings, which in that house made him something of an anomaly. He noticed Amara within the first month, not because she was beautiful, though she was, but because of the way she corrected an overcharging supplier's invoice without being asked, catching an error the family's own accounts office had missed for 2 years. "Where did you learn to read a ledger like that?" he asked her one evening in the kitchen. "My father," she said simply. "He used to say numbers don't lie, only people do." He laughed a real laugh, surprised out of him. "I think I like your father's philosophy." Less than 5 months later, everyone in that house knew something had changed between them, even though nothing improper had happened. Kingsley found reasons to be near the kitchen. Amara found herself hoping he would. She almost stopped herself more than once. She told herself a man like Kingsley did not end up with a woman like her, that hoping for it was setting herself up to be humiliated. But when he looked at her, she saw something she had not seen from anyone since her father died. A person who saw her as a whole human being, not a uniform. Beatrice Bello had other plans entirely. She had already chosen Kingsley's wife, Chiamaka Okafor, daughter of one of the wealthiest oil trading families in the country. Partners, Beatrice called the arrangement, in front of Kingsley, in front of guests, in front of anyone who would listen. "This is not about love, Kingsley. This is about building an empire that outlives both our families. Chiamaka's father and I have already discussed it. You will be partners, and together, our two houses will control more of this market than anyone in Lagos." Kingsley had heard that word partner used to justify every decision his mother had ever made on his behalf. He was growing tired of hearing it. Chiamaka Okafor visited the house often that season, and every visit left a small trail of damage behind her: a shattered vase, a torn curtain, staff reduced to tears. She screamed at the junior maids over folded towels. She once slapped the gateman, Babatunde, across the face simply because he was too slow opening the gate for her car. Amara watched all of it and said nothing, because saying something was not her place, and because she needed the job. Then, quietly, her own wages began shrinking. Beatrice deducted damages from Amara's pay: a broken glass Amara had never touched, a stain she had never made, small amounts each month, never explained, never open to argument. When Amara asked politely for a breakdown, Beatrice waved her away. "You people always want paperwork for everything. Just be grateful you are still employed here." The humiliation went public not long after. At a dinner attended by several of Beatrice's society friends, Amara was asked to serve wine. Her hand trembled slightly under so many eyes, and a few drops spilled onto the white tablecloth. Beatrice did not wait for her to apologize. "This is what happens when you bring gutter girls into a proper house," she announced to the table, loud enough for the whole room, loud enough for Kingsley to hear from the hallway. "She doesn't know how to hold a glass, and my son thinks she can hold a family." The table laughed politely. Amara stood there, wine bottle still in her hand, and said nothing. She only bowed slightly and continued serving, her spine straight, her face unreadable. Restraint, her aunt had always told her, is not weakness, it is armor. The lowest point came 3 weeks later. Beatrice announced in front of the entire household staff, lined up in the hallway, that money had gone missing from her bedroom safe, 400,000 naira. "Search her room," Beatrice ordered, pointing directly at Amara. "The gutter girl, search it now." They found the money in Amara's bag, wrapped in a handkerchief that was not hers, tucked beneath a spare uniform. What none of them saw was the moment 3 nights earlier when Beatrice had called the junior maid Ife into her private study and placed a bundle of marked notes into her hands. "Put this in her bag while she is at market," Beatrice told her, "under the folded uniforms where she will not notice until it is too late. Do you understand me?" Ife had understood. Ife was 19, supporting a sick mother in Ogun State, and afraid of losing her own position. She did as she was told, and she hated herself for it. That night, Amara was locked in the boys' quarters, a small, bare storage room behind the compound, while Beatrice decided what to do with her. "Thief!" Beatrice hissed through the door. "You will spend the night in there and think about what happens to gutter girls who reach above themselves." It was Babatunde who came to her that night, sliding a plate of food and a bottle of water under the locked door, his own cheek still faintly marked from Chiamaka's slap weeks earlier. "I know you did not steal that money," he whispered through the gap. "How can you know that?" "Because Ife told me. She has not slept in 3 days. She said Madame gave her the money herself, told her exactly where to hide it in your bag." Amara sat very still on the cold floor. "Would she say that to my face?" "She is afraid, but she gave me this." Babatunde slid something thin under the door Ife's phone, a voice recording app still open on the screen. A recording, made in secret, of Beatrice's own voice instructing her, "Put this in her bag while she is at market." Amara listened to it twice, her hand steady, though something in her chest had gone very cold and very quiet. It was the only crack that showed, not tears, not shouting. She simply pressed her palm flat against the recording, as if she could hold the proof still, and whispered, "So this is what 30 years of respect is worth to you." Then she deleted nothing, said nothing more, and waited. Kingsley proposed 2 months later, despite his mother's fury, despite threats to cut him off entirely. He had heard enough. He had seen enough. A wedding date was set at a small church in Lekki, away from his mother's society circle, with only close friends invited. Beatrice did not attend. Beatrice instead made a phone call. On the morning of the wedding, Amara's car was stopped 2 streets from the church by men she had never seen before. They forced her into a van, and the last thing she saw through the tinted window was Lagos traffic moving past, indifferent, while her wedding dress crumpled against a stranger's shoulder. She was taken to an empty warehouse near Apapa and left there, the door bolted from outside, her phone taken from her. If you were locked in a room on the morning, you were meant to marry the person you loved. Knowing the woman who put you there felt no guilt at all. What would you do first? Tell me in the comments. I want to know. Amara did not scream. She did not cry. She sat down on the cold concrete floor and she began to think. She thought about the ledger, the household accounts. Beatrice had insisted only Amara be trusted to keep because, as Beatrice herself had said once, sneering even as she said it, at least the gutter girl can count properly, unlike these other useless ones. Every deduction from her pay, every damage fee, every large cash withdrawal Beatrice had ever made from the family account for reasons she never explained, including, Amara now realized with absolute clarity, a withdrawal of 2 million naira made only 4 days earlier. A withdrawal Beatrice had personally instructed Amara to log under miscellaneous household expense, and Amara, trained by her father, who taught her that numbers don't lie, only people do, add quietly, instinctively copied every entry into her own private notebook and mailed a photograph of each week's pages to her aunt in Aba, the way her father once kept duplicate records of everything, just in case. He had told her so himself. Beatrice had handed her the very evidence of her own crimes and ordered her to write it down neatly. The men guarding the warehouse were rough, but not especially careful. She heard them mention a name once, in passing a driver's name, a name she recognized from the family payroll, a man Beatrice sometimes used for errands she didn't want her son to know about. She had no new powers. She had no rescuer waiting in the wings. She had only what she had always had, numbers that told the truth, and a mind trained since childhood to read when one of the guards left his phone unattended to argue over a delayed payment. The very payment Beatrice had wired that week, the one Amara had personally logged, Amara used the 2 minutes she had to call the one number she still remembered by heart, her aunt in Aba. Send the photographs, she said quietly, all of them, to Kingsley, and to the number I'm about to send you, a lawyer friend of my father's, from before. Tell him it is urgent. Her aunt, a woman who had survived far worse than a locked warehouse door, did not ask questions. She simply acted. Within the hour, a lawyer contacted the police fraud unit with photographic evidence of falsified household accounts, unexplained 6-figure withdrawals, and a recorded voice instruction to plant stolen money on an employee. Kingsley, meanwhile, tracked the last known location of the driver's company vehicle through the logistics software he used every day for Bello Group's fleet, a system his mother had never bothered to learn because she considered it beneath her. A police unit and Kingsley arrived at the warehouse within the same half hour. Neighbors near the property later told police they'd assumed the van coming and going all morning belonged to a delivery company. Nothing about it looked unusual from the outside. No one suspected a kidnapping was unfolding in plain daylight. Beatrice did not learn any of this until it was already finished. She was still at home, dressed for an entirely different afternoon, believing the matter was closed. She arrived at the police station that evening only because Kingsley called and told her coldly that she needed to come and explain herself. Amara stood in the small waiting room, still in the wedding dress she had never taken off, and for the first time in 6 months, she was the one who was calm. "You told me numbers don't lie," she said quietly. "The day you handed me your bank withdrawal and told me to log it as household expense, you just forgot that someone was actually reading the numbers." Beatrice reached for her usual weapon, insults, volume, control. "You ungrateful girl, after everything 2 million naira, withdrawn the Tuesday before my wedding, paid to a driver on your payroll," Amara continued, evenly, laying photographed ledger pages on the table one by one. A voice recording of you instructing Ife to plant 400,000 naira in my bag. A call log placing your driver's phone at a warehouse in Apapa this morning. I am not asking you to believe me. I am showing you. Beatrice had no answer. For the first time in 30 years, a room full of people was looking at her the way she had always looked at everyone else, with contempt. By the following week, the story had traveled to every circle that mattered to her. Her business partners, her society friends, the Okafor family who quietly withdrew from the marriage arrangement entirely rather than be associated with the kidnapping scandal. It was not the money that finished her, it was the whispering. The women who once complimented her Jill at every function now crossed the room to avoid her. The last anyone saw of Beatrice Bello's old life was her stepping out of the same Ikoyi mansion alone into a much smaller car than the one she arrived in 30 years earlier as a young bride full of ambition. A year later, Amara stood in front of a small office in Lekki, watching a signwriter finish the last letter of her name on the glass door. Chuku Accounting and Advisory. She unlocked the door herself, the same way she once locked and unlocked 100 doors that never truly belonged to her. Kingsley stood beside her, no longer managing his mother's empire but building something of his own, alongside the woman his mother had once called unworthy. Numbers don't lie, my daughter, she said quietly, almost to herself, running her hand along the freshly painted sign. Only people lie. A number will always tell you exactly what happened if you are patient enough to ask it properly. She had followed that advice for 18 years. It had finally brought her home.
Thank you so much for watching. And please don't forget to subscribe to African Folktale by Zoya. Turn on the notification so when I post more interesting stories, you will be the first to get them. I really appreciate you. I do not take your support for granted. Bye for now.